Morning. Thank you all for joining. After this amazing presentation of Sergey from Kaspersky, I think now I'm pretty much in a good shape to scare you a little bit more, which is good. Very happy to be here. Thank you so much for setting up this scene. I just told to Patrick and Marcos that I've been lecturing from many different places around the globe, but to see this kind of organization with the translation and everything, it's great. Just for the translation, nice ladies there. I had this kind of, when I'm excited a little bit, I'm starting to talk a little bit fast. So just throw me something or raise a hand, exactly. Thank you for that. A lot have been talked here in the last couple of days about the cyber trend and where we are and how things are done and the different solutions where you could see here in this floor. And I think that you need to be aware that there are a lot of new and updated solutions that are pretty much answering some of the things that people were mentioning about automation. And I'm not sure if you've been here for the first day from the military and government, but they talked about actionable intelligence. So there are a lot of solutions, and I'm going to share with you some of that here and give you some examples. And what I'm going to cover here in the next 45 minutes or so, and I'll try to leave some time for questions, although I see that you're a little bit shy, but I'm going to drive you through, so be aware. But I'm going to take you through the concept of the SCADA system, supervisory and control data acquisition system, that some of you already heard. I'm going to talk a little bit more about industrial control system, and I try to give you some background and what is it exactly, and why I think, although people are talking about the big cases, about electricity and gas and oil and all that, but still, you have a lot things to do in your own organizations, even these days. And later on, I'll touch a little bit about Internet of Things, the IoT and the new trends. A lot of people are talking about that. So bear with me. You could see some of the slides here that have a lot of text. So don't worry, I'm not going to get through those texts. I just put those slides because my partner here told me that in some cases, people are taking these presentations and using them later on. So I put some detailed explanations and some references. So please feel free to use them. And I hope we're all going to be in good solution there. So before talking about the agenda, and since this is pretty much early morning, and I am here like 10 minutes before time, which is amazing, just raise your hand quickly for a quiz, short quiz that I'm going to do now before starting and after when I'm going to be the end of the presentation. Who's aware and who's afraid and who's a little bit scared of industrial control systems, attack, and stuff like that? Okay, this is good. It's about 10%, 10-15%. Let's say that you're tired, it's morning, you're not wake up, so let's say 20%. 20%. Let's remember that, and let's try to do the same by the end of the presentation. I hope I'm going to do better here. So just to start with, and to wake you up a little bit, can you please put the video in? Thank you.
We need to get out of here.
Hello?
When this stuff is over, you're gonna be looking back at this and being like, dang, that was some crazy stuff.
Dad,
What?
somebody just broke in.
What?
Go back to the house.
Is anybody help us? It's the end of the world. Mommy!
Let's go.
Why is nobody helping us?
Where are you, Daddy?
That Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and San Francisco, they have all gone out as well.
It's like a horror movie.
It's looking like a total power outage across the entire country,
A colossal and history-making blackout.
the likes of which we have never seen before.
Okay, I forgot to ask if there are small children in the audience. Please take them out. But so this is a little bit scary, and maybe this is a little bit exaggerated. But I urge you, and I know that in some countries, in some places, and some organizations are doing those kind of drills from time to time. So I'm sure you're gonna be aware of some of those risks and behavior. And believe me, this could be a chaos. But let's get there first. So what I'm gonna cover in the next couple of minutes, I'm gonna focus on some background and some definition, just for us to be on the same page. I'm gonna share with you some standards that are pretty much known in this industry. Later on, I'm gonna talk a little bit about if and how critical it is, and I hope you're gonna be a little bit more convinced that we are not talking only about nation states and nuclear reactor, but also on your own organization, and you should be aware of a little bit more about it. I'm gonna give you some kind of a case study, a very short example, and how our customers are using and dealing with that, and what kind of systems and how they are doing that in a most updated way these days. And I think that the last question will be pretty much a simple one for all of us later on. So just to start, there are a lot of news around that. The US official sees more cyber attack industrial control systems from time and time again. We talked more about oil and gas industry, and just a survey from Tripwire for a couple of months ago said that more than 82% says that there was a huge increase on cyber attack on industrial control systems. More than 50% says that the jump was more than somewhere between 50 to 100% more successful attack. And we've just seen some of the numbers that Sergey was sharing with us about industrial control systems in 2014, in the first half of 2015. So we are all aware of that. And of course, and this is maybe, I'm not sure if you'll be surprised or not, but a lot of people think that the most attacked business sector is the financial sector, because people would like to get money, people would like to get some gain there. But this is a very interesting numbers from 2014 that says that the most relevant business sectors were critical manufacturing, energy and utility, oil and gas, and only then, somewhere in the end, financials and other sectors. So this is very interesting to better understand there. So talking about industrial control system, and remember what I've said before about slides with a lot of text, just to be on the same page, we have several definitions, and we start with the control server that is pretty much host and manage the whole SCADA environment. We're talking about the SCADA server, or the MTU, the master terminal unit, which pretty much hosts the connection to all the different units and what we call IED, or intelligence electronic devices. We're talking about the remote terminal unit, the RTU, which manage all the communication with those units that you have in the field. We're talking about the PLC, which is a small industrial, even like a processor, like Intel processor or any other processor that is doing some specific functionality, very small functionality, or as said before, the IED, which are the sensors that giving us those kind of data from different parts in the organization or in the field. And getting that more architecture or better understanding, just a very simple example, how this kind of industrial control system looks like. We're talking from, I hope it will work. Okay, you can see it here. But on the left-hand side, your left-hand side, we're talking about the control center, which cover all the management and control. Then you have all the different network infrastructure, whether it's line, whether it's microwave or cellular, whether it's satellite in some cases. And then in the end, you could see different implementations from, it could be manufacturing line, it could be nuclear reactors, it could be even just sensors, or even IP cameras that are there and controlling your infrastructure. So this is a very simple, just for you to get the big picture of when we're talking about industrial control systems or SCADA systems later on, what kind of things we're talking about. And I think one of the most common standards out there is the NIST, which stands for National Institution for Standards and Technology. And this one, 800-82, is focused on industrial control system. And you all could download it from the web, so it's very easy. It's a very interesting document that was published in 2011. It's been updated from time to time. But it sets the ground to better understand what kind of all the definitions are for industrial control systems, but also how you should get into more and more depth and detailed about defending those industrial control systems. And it's pretty much saying three major things. One, it's not like you have the traditional security people and the people who deals with engineer and who deals with the SCADA system. It has to be mixed, and it has to talk under the same terminology, under the same lingo, because otherwise you're going to keep that separate, and it's going to be bad for your business. Second, you, as the cyber experts or the CISO in the organization, need to consult with the vendors, because you will be surprised how many holes and how many communications and how many different point of access you have to those industrial control systems, although it seems very, very simple. It is doing only one thing. It measures the temperature, or it measures the humidity. Very simple thing, but still, you'll be surprised how many things it could do besides. So you need to consult the vendor, and you need to make sure to talk to the business owner. So in the financial industry or in the telcos industry, Telmex are here, and there is business owners. Here, we are pretty much talking about the site manager or the business owner for the SCADA system that needs to be involved and need to be reported to. And third, you need to do the defense in depth, and you need to implement that like any other solutions that you're having there. And in that document, you have a long list of what exactly defense in depth means, and we've got some pretty much good recommendations in the last couple of days, also in the last lecture. So basically, it means that you need to restrict the logical access, and believe it or not, but even those industrial machines, and I'm going to show you some picture later on, they have passwords, they have smart cards, they have smart login, which makes it interesting, but not all of them. Or I should say, only a little of them have that. I'm not even talking about access authorization and rights and access rights and all that. So you need to also restrict the physical access, of course. But the physical access here is much more sensitive than in the logical, regular industry that we are all familiar with. We need to protect the individual industrial control system from exploitation. We need to maintain their functionality, even in adverse condition, and this is very important. Even when things goes wrong, we need to make sure that the functionality is still working, and we need to be prepared to replace them when time happens. So that's basically the major ideas behind it. And now I'll try to give you some examples. Some of them you already had, so I'll try to skip that, but some of them I think it would be interesting for you to be familiar with. So let's try to see if it's critical and why. So already in 1982, there was a big explosion in one of the gas pipelines in Russia that was pretty much up till now was identified as the most monumental non-nuclear explosion. And the way it was done there is just playing with some of the pressures and just getting into some of the SCADA systems and some of the pipes there in order to set up the different level of pressure. So this is very interesting, already in 1982. Second, we already heard a little bit about that. We were having a worm in one of the electricity SCADA systems in the US already in 2003, and it would pretty much take some of the states there for darkness for days. And this could create a lot of bad things, as we just saw there. And I'm not talking about families and houses and all that. Third, which was published in 2010, but I guess, as you all know, it was there for more than, I think it was there, or starting there for 2007. And again, since I'm an Israeli, I'm going to speak only from public sources. So I'm not saying anything from my point of view. But still, that Stuxnet, and I guess you're familiar with that, or most of you are familiar with that, was a very interesting stuff because it was kind of malfunctioning some of the centrifuge in nuclear reactor. And in most cases, we should think that, come on, how nuclear reactor is connected? How this kind of piece of software get into there? Because in most cases, people are thinking that there is no connection or no internet connection or no network connections. So how, I mean, most of this very sensitive and critical infrastructure is isolated from the public network. So how do we get there? How do we do that? And this is a very interesting paradigm that I think you all should be aware of. And for now, I don't believe maybe only a few very, very sensitive, which I guess some of you, at least who have been in the military, could understand, but could be familiar with. But in most cases, if you have a network, if you have a computers, if you have operational system, something is getting in. It doesn't really matter if it's done through the network, from an online network, or through different pieces of hardware or firmware, as we just heard from Sergey before. And those kind of stuff is coming either through professionals, employees, or supports, or in that specific case, specific updates coming from Siemens, whatever machines that could be connected in that way or another, because someday you need to update the software, you need to have more functionality, you need to have some maintenance around it. So even if you think that your industrial control systems are not connected anywhere and they don't have any IP address, please think or try to better understand that there are other ways to get there. Of course, we heard a lot about flame which was pretty much identified as the most complex malware, were found, recorded, audio, keyboard, screenshots, network. It was implemented in Iran. It was founded also in Israel in some companies and some institutions. So it was something very, very sophisticated. And again, it was very hard to find.